All right, guys, what is going on? Arbitrum ecosystem update coming at you live again. Again, disclaimers out the way. None of what I say today is financial advice, and everything that I do say is my opinion and my opinion alone. That being said, let's jump right into it. We've got a couple of things I wanted to talk about today, a couple topics, and then one relatively big announcement at the end. Let's start off with Stephen Goldfeder, CEO at Offchain Labs. He says, I'm currently aware of 50 plus Arbitrum orbit chains in development. 2024 prediction is 150 orbit chains on mainnet. Hashtag Ethereum is scaling. By the way, sorry in advance, my bird's on the screen, so if you hear any chirping, it's because of him. Arbitrum orbit chains. So you might have heard me speak about this a ton already, but there's going to be a lot coming next year. 150 on mainnet, let's say by the end of 2024 is definitely a lot. Well, what I will say is that, not like it. I don't think it's going to be a ton of Arbitrum orbit chains that are just like generalized chains that people are asking, okay, why are they here, right? Each chain, and I'm starting to realize this slowly, like different builders have different kind of visions for what they're building. So it's not necessarily that people are just taking the Arbitrum stack and copying and pasting it and then having their own token and just having their own, regular ecosystem. Some of these guys are doing like extremely different stuff. There's one, for example, that it's going to have a chain dedicated to kind of live streaming and content creation. There's one that's going to be dedicated to kind of NFTs and for creator-focused kind of like art-specific stuff, which is Frame. There's one that's like, for example, going to be fully kind of encrypted. The actual term is fully homomorphic encryption, I think. Gigabrain stuff, but the entire chain essentially is going to be kind of private with confidential smart contracts. The point is that each Arbitrum orbit chain is going to be a distinct flavor of the Arbitrum stack, and that's the coolest part about what's going to happen, I think, next year. So, more than the amount of Arbitrum orbit chains you're going to see, it's the different flavors that you should be excited for and the different use cases that those different flavors will have. A good example, by the way, is I was going to bring it up here, but I know it didn't fit into the conversation today. Frame actually put in a proposal for kind of like a sub community within the Azuki universe to bridge over and essentially have their kind of community live on Frame instead of Ethereum mainnet. And I think it actually passed. So the point is that different Arbitrum chains, different orbit chains will have different communities, will have different visions, will have different technology kind of backing it, or different, additions of technology backing it. And it's going to serve for a lot more of an inclusive, I would say, environment for builders looking for something particular versus just deploying on a generalized chain that may have a ton of community and liquidity on it, but not everyone wants that, right? So the options will be there, and I think next year you're going to see a ton of cool, innovative stuff being built on Arbitrum orbit chains. Next, I wanted to talk about my bold statement here. The Superchain will be a network of interwoven L2, L3 stacks coupled with a network of shared sequencers. This is kind of funny because for those of you who don't know, Superchain is kind of a moniker that the OP stack people have kind of taken over as kind of like a product that they're trying to build, essentially a network of chains that can interoperate between each other. Currently, to my understanding, is essentially just completely an idea that they have. I don't think they've actually shipped on anything that relates to it quite yet. But what I will say is that I think if you want an actual superchain, you can't restrict yourself to a stack. Like a superchain, an actual superchain, quote unquote, that's why I put it in air quotes, will be inclusive of multiple stacks: OP stack, Arbitrum stack, ZK stack, any kind of roll-up stack essentially, with the ability to kind of plug in like the shared sequencing model. Very likely, for example, the one that Espresso Systems is making, to have a non-bias and kind of general purpose stack that can interoperate between each other. That's how I think you actually make Ethereum competitive with the broader kind of, alt L1 kind of market and narrative that is coming, where people are saying, oh, okay, well, if using Ethereum is terrible because of the UX with the bridge everywhere. And like, to a certain extent, you have to bridge anywhere no matter what, right? You have to bridge to an L1 if you want to use it. So it doesn't make a difference. But the point is that this would actually make that difference, right? You wouldn't need a bridge anywhere anymore. You could literally just, the idea would be that you can kind of use liquidity from other chains and, maybe transact on another chain with funds on, a chain that's different. Like different types of interoperability would exist. But the point is that it can't be specific to a chain stack because not everyone's going to use the OP stack. Not everyone's going to use the Arbitrum stack. People are going to use whatever they want to use. But at the end of the day, if the one common denominator is a sequencer, a single sequencer for every chain, why not have a shared sequencing setup that can connect all the chains together to a certain extent? Probably not atomically, but to a certain extent, connect all the chains. So we have this kind of interwoven environment that is Ethereum as the common denominator versus just a stack. But yeah, that was kind of my little hot take of the day yesterday. And lastly, I wanted to talk about what Peter here said at Offchain Labs as well, who does partnerships. He says, in 2024, Arbitrum will face the last wave of DeFi competition. Here's a quick thread on some areas that I'm watching. Number 1 is app chains. Number 2 is RWAs/TradFi. Number 3 is new general purpose chains. And then number 4, bonus is that DeFi goes everywhere. And Peter essentially kind of goes through a whole thread talking about how app chains kind of started on Cosmos, and now, the L2 stack kind of area is pretty much more or less adopting that kind of structure of chain creation. And I think it's a pretty insightful thread. I'm not going to read the entire thing here, but definitely take a look if you're interested. Arbitrum has definitely been the home for DeFi, bar none, without a doubt. I think you can ask anyone that and they'll agree. I think, people, there hasn't really been another 0 to 1 moment since, I feel like for a long time, to be honest, in DeFi. But I do think next year maybe could introduce that possibility. And very likely, if it's going to happen on Arbitrum. Most likely. I have heard people talking about Solana and them having very good UX for particular apps. I think Jito is one of them, for example. So it's possible that if it does happen on a non-Ethereum network, that it happens on Solana. But what I will say is with the introduction of Stylus, I think you'll see more Solana-based dApps also moving over to Arbitrum as well, assuming that passes, the governance vote and whatnot. And yeah, for what it's worth, I think DeFi is still one of the most important things that can come out of crypto. A lot of people don't, have stopped kind of caring about it for the most part, but I do think it's still by far the most important thing. Power over your money, power over your funds is almost the core purpose of crypto in the first place. Memeing, NFTs, etc., all that stuff is fun, but at the end of the day, I think crypto's not sole purpose, but one of crypto's most important purposes is democratizing finance and giving people the power to hold their funds, but also get access to these different kind of primitives that otherwise maybe they either wouldn't get access to or just are too complicated or require too many kind of bars to jump to in TradFi. Lending, borrowing, options, trading, etc. And lastly, last announcement I wanted to kind of bring up here, Pixel Vault. They're announcing BattlePlan is officially launching on January 9th. Pixel Vault is essentially it's kind of like I almost want to say it's like a Mortal Kombat-esque game where you're kind of fighting people completely on-chain. It's on Arbitrum Nova, so the transaction fees are extremely cheap, and it's a really fun game. I highly implore you guys to try it out if you haven't tried it yet. But definitely looking forward to that. January 9th, it's about 10 days away. And yeah, definitely check it out. I think the token actually launched today as well. Again, not financial advice. It might have been, I think it was GG. So it's funny. I'm surprised they actually didn't mention it here. But here we go. Someone mentioned GG. But yeah, definitely shout out to the Pixel Vault team. I actually literally just had G-Funk, the CEO over there, on the podcast. Literally a couple of days ago. You guys have heard me shill it already many times. I'm not going to shill it today, but I'm shilling it, mouth to mouth. I'm not going to show it on the screen here today, but definitely check out the podcast if you're interested in learning more about Pixel Vault, G-Funk, and the rest of the ecosystem there. And yeah, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope my bird didn't bother you guys too much. Come here, Coco. Come here. Where you going, Coco? Look at this. Coco. Yo, what is he doing? Look, let's see. Oh, it's not focused. He's too close. Come on, Coco. Come here. Oh, where are you going? All right. Thanks for watching, guys.